There are stories you never forget, not because they're beautiful, but because they hold the truth. A truth so precise, you start to see yourself in it. Today, I want to tell you one of those stories. The story of a man whose illness took everything from him, and for exactly that reason, gave him everything. This is not a metaphor. It happened. And as you listen, I ask just one thing. Don't just listen. Look for where this is about you, because behind this story is not a medical case. Behind it is something almost no one talks about, the deepest cause of illness, not emotions, not beliefs. Deeper. His name was Andrei, 41 years old, successful by any external measure. His own business, a car, an apartment, a family. The kind of man who handled everything, held everything together, took responsibility for everything. The kind people point to and say, "Now, that's a real man." Andrei never complained. Not once. Not because there was nothing to complain about, but because he didn't allow himself to. Complaining was weakness, and weakness was unacceptable. He had carried that belief since childhood. His father was a military man. You can already guess where this is going. Here's what's important to understand about people like him. They don't live, they function. Day after day, year after year. The mind is constantly busy. Plans, tasks, control, anxiety. The mental chatter never stops. From morning to night, an internal dialogue. What to say, how to respond. What happens if I don't make it in time? And in all that endless noise inside the head, not a single second of silence. No contact with the body. No contact with himself. No contact with life. Andrei lived inside his head, completely disconnected from everything else. The first signal came at 37. Back pain. He didn't pay attention. Figured it was the desk job he needed to move more. He bought a gym membership. The pain got worse. The second signal came at 39. High blood pressure. The doctor prescribed medication. Andrei took it faithfully and kept working at the same pace. The third signal came at 41. A heart attack. Not a massive one, but a real one. An ambulance, the intensive care unit, 3 weeks in the hospital. For the first time in his life, Andrei lay still and could do nothing. For the first time in his life, he had time to think. Later, he would describe it like this. On the third night in the hospital, he cried for the first time. Not from pain, from understanding. He lay in the ward and suddenly saw his life from the outside, as if he had stepped out of it and was looking in. And he saw he was not living his own life. He was living the life other people approved of. The business, not because he wanted it, but because he had to prove something to his father. The pace, not because he enjoyed it, but because stopping meant coming face to face with himself. And that was terrifying. Because inside, there was emptiness. Just emptiness. For years, he had been filling it from the outside. With work, money, status. And it kept growing. And here is what he understood that night. Perhaps for the first time in his life, he had never truly been in contact with life. Not really. He had been busy thinking about life. But he never felt it, never noticed it, never actually lived in it. Life flowed past him while he sat inside his head, thinking about it, planning the future, replaying the past, controlling the present, but never living in it. Not one single alive moment. Just to be present. Just to exist. Just to breathe and feel that he was part of this vast, living world. That had never happened. And the body, which is part of life which exists only in the present moment, could not withstand that disconnection. Here is what's important to understand about the body. It does not punish. It is not the enemy. It is the most honest friend you have, because it cannot lie. The mind can. The mind invents explanations, justifications, rationalizations. I'm fine, just tired. Everything's okay. The body cannot do that. The body says what is. And when it goes unheard for years, it starts to speak louder. First quietly, tension, fatigue, anxiety. Then louder, pain, inflammation, high blood pressure. Then, at full volume, a heart attack is the body at full volume. It is not a catastrophe. It is the most persistent signal of all. Stop. Be quiet. Come out of your head. For the first time in your life, feel that you are alive, because that is exactly what the body is trying to give back. Not health itself, contact, the connection with life that you lost somewhere along the way. And as long as that connection is missing, the illness will return in the same form or another. Because the signal was never heard, the cause was never addressed. Not an emotion, not a belief, the disconnection itself between you and life. Andrei stopped, not immediately and not easily. For the first months after leaving the hospital, he tried to return to his old rhythm, and every time, the body said no, with pain, with exhaustion, with panic attacks that had never been there before. And then for the first time in his life, he asked for help. Not from a cardiologist, from a psychologist. It cost him enormous effort, because a real man doesn't go to a psychologist. That was belief number one, the kind you heard about in the last video. He went, and he began to unpack what had been building for decades. Over the following year, Andrei did several things that had once seemed unthinkable. He closed one of his business lines, the one that brought money, but drained life. He had a real conversation with his father for the first time. Without armor, he learned to say no and not be destroyed by guilt afterwards. He started doing what he enjoyed, not because it was useful, but simply because he enjoyed it. He painted. It turned out he was good at it. No one knew. He had forgotten himself. But that's not the most important part. The most important part is what began to happen inside him. The mental chatter grew quieter, not all at once. Gradually, he began to notice moments when his mind was still, when he was simply walking and could feel his feet touching the ground, when he looked at the sky, and it was just the sky, with no thoughts about it. When he breathed, and in that breath there was something alive, warm, real. He began to feel life, not think about it, feel it, for the first time, truly. And in that state, something happened that years of medication had never managed. His blood pressure normalized. The back pain disappeared. His body relaxed. Not because he found the right doctor, but because contact was restored. Between him and life, energy began to flow again. He stopped being a stagnant pool, a closed system that only holds and accumulates. He became alive. Open. A current moved through him again. I'm telling you this story not to frighten you or to inspire you. I'm telling it because inside it is a mechanism, a clear, repeating, reproducible one. Illness arrives where a person has long stopped truly living, where they are playing a role, husband, son, manager, good person, but not living their own life, where they accumulate the unspoken, the unlived, the unacknowledged. And the body, which holds all of that, at some point can no longer hold it. That is not weakness. That is honesty. The body is more honest than we are. And here is the most important question. Not about Andrei. About you. Is there something in your life you have been carrying for a long time and never putting down? A role you perform, but never chose. A life you are living, but not your own. I am not asking you to drop everything and rethink your life right now. I am asking only one thing. To answer that question honestly, not out loud, inside. Just look, because seeing it is already half the journey. As long as you can't see it, change is impossible. The moment you see it, the process has already begun. Quietly, but irreversibly. Andrei's story ended well. Not perfectly. Life is never perfect. But, well. 2 years after the heart attack, Andrei said something that stayed with everyone who knew him. "I am grateful for that heart attack. It was the only thing in my life that did what I could never do myself. It stopped me and gave me my life back." He didn't mean he was glad to have been ill. He meant something else. That the illness had been a portal, a doorway into a different life. A life in which he was finally present. In which he felt, not just thought. In which he was part of the current, not a wall the current broke against. These portals open for many people, but most walk back into the same life the moment things get a little better. The symptom is gone. Good, and the cycle begins again. Andrei did not walk back, because he had seen the difference between living inside his head and living inside life. Illness is not an ending. It is a crossroads. One road, treat the symptom and return to what created it. Back into the head, back into the mental chatter, back into a life you control, but never feel. The other road, hear what the body is saying, and go where it leads, toward yourself, toward the state where you are not at war, but in the flow, where it is quiet inside, where life around you is not a threat or a backdrop, but a living space of which you are a part. Most people choose the first road because it is familiar. A few choose the second, and those are exactly the people who later say, "That was the best thing that ever happened to me." Not the illness itself, but where it led. If you are at a point right now where your body is already speaking to you, and you feel there is something greater behind it, I invite you to a personal breakdown of your situation. Not a lecture, not general advice. We will look at your story specifically. What is happening? Where the disconnection is? Where to begin for you? It's free. The link is below. Subscribe. In the next video, we move out of stories and into the details. I'll break down which specific emotions are connected to which organs. Not from an internet chart, but from real clinical observations and neuroscience. Why resentment lives in the liver. Why fear lives in the kidneys. Why suppressed anger hits the head. This is a video you'll want to save. See you there.